Hi, I'm Claire and welcome back to Let's Build Wingtorn. Let's not waste any more time and get back into the story. It lasts that long that they're worshiping Pitton. I think that somebody in his close inner circle probably already has a lot of power over his followers, and this person comes in and starts moving it in whatever direction they want it to move in, right? While deifying Pitton. I think that's what this is about. But let's draw some cards to see who this person is. Draw a researcher, a hunter, a collector, and a killer. Actually, hunter makes sense. I mean, Pitton and Mimra, they were hunters, right? This all started because the Fae abducted Pitton while he was on a hunt. It would be very interesting if there is a third friend here who stuck by Pitton, who gets sort of pulled into this society, who helps him build it. So I think I'm gonna go with hunter, but I am gonna draw another descriptor just to kind of see what else they are, right? People are rarely one thing. People are rarely singular, especially after, a whole lifetime, right? Okay, well, this is oddly appropriate. Hermit, a messiah, a teacher, and a holy person. I mean, I think some of these things are just assumed, right? If you're in society cult with a lot of rituals, you're deifying somebody. Does this person really take up the mantle and be like, Pitton has told me that I am your new god. Together we form some sort of duality. I think I'm gonna go with Messiah. Just kind of confirms what we've sort of come up with here, right? This person, they've been working with Pitton their whole life. Pitton finally dies. Now they are Pitton's messenger, right? They're the one calling the shots and delivering the messages to the people. Draw some more cards to find out what kind of person this person is. Toxic, half elven, not elves, fae, burdened, intelligent. I like burdened. I think this person has a secret. Other than the obvious, like, they're taking over this movement and they're gonna use it for their own ends. I think that's obvious. I wonder if this person who has been at Pitton's side his whole life, helped him build this, I think that they have a secret. And I wonder if that secret has something to do with the fact that they're a spy. I don't know why there would be a spy in this very ridiculous, in my opinion, society. Ridiculous in the sense that it is not actually effective at the core mission. It's really them dancing around in the woods. And, that's healing in its own way, but not effective at, comforting families of people who have died or who have been lost in the traditional sense. I wonder if they were or they are a spy for the Fae. I don't know if they were captured too. Maybe they were. The initial people in his society were. Let's roll the dice and ask a few questions here. First, let's get their gender. Okay, they are non-binary. What is their name? Let's give them a name. I'm gonna call this person Saijin. Is that a name? Sounds kind of cool. This person's name is Saijin. I think that they've been Pitton's friend for a long time. They're a hunter. Now they're his successor. What does Saijin want? Engine cards. Fell out, so we gotta use it. So we have wants to hide an obsession with, wants to stop being hunted, and they are burdened. This is feeding more and more into my idea. I think at one point or another, Saijin was tapped to spy on Pitton. I don't know who by. Was the Human King, the Fae people. I don't think that the Fae people really care about this. I think this is an annoyance at best. Who are they being hunted by? I think that they were tapped to be a spy, and I think that they agreed. I think they agreed to spy on their friend. I think maybe at some point Saijin realizes, this is not really what I signed up for, Pitton, but they have power and influence, so what are you gonna do? but I think he made some promises to another party that they ultimately were like, look, I agreed to be a spy for you. Here's some information, but I don't know, like maybe we're done here. And maybe for a time they were done. But now that they have come into power of this group, I think this other, whether it's somebody in the court, the human court, somebody in the Fae court, is hunting them, is trying to bring them down and trying to make them make good on a long ago promise. This puts them in jeopardy. It puts their movement certainly in jeopardy. Okay, I think that is the case. But I'm gonna ask the Oracle, it is their turn. Was Saijin tapped to be a spy for somebody in the Fae court? I don't think so. I don't think they care about this. But who knows, right? Maybe they could be an annoying threat. We'll say +2. 5 + 4 is 9, +2 is 11, which is a yes. Saijin was tapped to be a spy. They were for a while, and then they were like, there's nothing going on here, go away. But now that Saijin is in power, and I think this is the scene, right? Who is this person in the Fae court that would care about this, right? I haven't really established much about the Fae court, but I do plan to maybe in a different video if you want to see that. But I don't think this is like a king. I think this is like an advisor or some noble looking for information to impress a royal. This is somebody who has some sort of power in the Fae court. So let's find out who they are. Ooh, okay, a guardian, an officer, a parent, a bouncer, an officer. I think this is a Fae soldier, maybe even a soldier that was involved in the initial abductions, right? Because they would certainly be potential targets of Pitton's movement. You know, whether or not they are actually under the direction of the Fae court is perhaps irrelevant. I think this officer is involved. I think that they're trying to keep tabs on this movement. I think they tapped Saijin to be a spy in the past. They have managed to get rid of this officer for a time, but now that Saijin is in power, this officer returns. So this is the scene. It's been a couple days since Pitton's remains have been buried or scattered, since they've had their ritual, as they no doubt have a ritual. Saijin is with his followers. I think they probably all live together. I think they still live in the woods, perhaps in the clan or near the clan. At this point in time, the clans are sort of merging and fading away as people flock to cities and capitals and towns, and it becomes less focused around what clan you're from and more focused around what settlement, what town you're from. That the war certainly disrupted a lot of clan traditions, but I get the sense that Pitton's movement still predominantly lives in the woods, perhaps lives in the Chal settlement, the original Chal settlement. I think that it's early evening, and perhaps Saijin has excused themselves and has gone down to the beach. The beach where the three sisters initially met the Fae. And I think they're having a quiet moment, thinking about, what am I gonna do? I have this whole movement, this whole cult secret society to run. Pitton is gone. How am I gonna keep control over these people? What am I gonna tell them? What am I gonna do about what I have done? How do I reconcile that I betrayed my friend? How do I reconcile my feelings for my friend and my devotion to this cause and the power, the influence that it brings me over these people? What am I going to do? And suddenly, in the sky, in the sunset light, he sees the fluttering of wings. Could it be a bird? No. I know it's not a bird. Their instinct is to run. They run into the forest. They have to get back to the settlement where it's safe. But they're intercepted by this Fae officer. They're alone, but even so, Saijin's not as young as they used to be. Neither is this officer. Fae and humans age at different rates. I think humans live longer. So they're both older, but they have scores to settle. What does this officer want? I think that this officer likely wants to re-recruit Saijin to use this movement for their own ends, or wants to put a stop to this whole movement. This officer says, I heard your leader is dead. And Saijin says, he was my friend. Get out of here before I warn the others. And the officer says, I don't think you'll do that. You and I had an agreement. And don't think that I don't remember, because I remember everything. And Saijin, all they want to do is get out of here. He has an advantage, and that is that Fae eyesight is terrible in the night. The light is waning. He just has to buy some time, get this Fae to trip up, and then maybe he could capture him, bring him back to the settlement. Or, even better, find a way to dispose of him so that this officer doesn't tell his followers that he is a traitor to their cause. What does Saijin do in this moment? Does Saijin try to kill this officer? It's the only way to ensure that his secret is never revealed. I'm gonna put it to the dice. Does Saijin try to kill this Fae officer? I think +2. That is a 20. Yeah, a fight breaks out. Saijin can take no chances. Saijin can't have anybody knowing that they're a traitor. Saijin can't have anybody knowing what happened in the past, because the past is the past and this is the now. And now Saijin is the Messiah, and that is that. So Saijin takes advantage of their environment. I think that Saijin has a weapon on them. They're a hunter. I think it would be foolish to go out unarmed, even though there is no conflict at this time. They are specifically anti-Fae, so who knows when, things like this may occur. Quick as anything, they take an arrow from their quiver and they lunge at this officer. This officer is not expecting this, and I think their poor eyesight is going to work against them here. There is a struggle. This struggle does not last long. They don't have the stamina of their youth. Who wins? Does Saijin succeed in killing this officer? 50-50. 7 + 2 is 9 + 0. No, they don't kill the officer. What happens is the officer is wounded. Not so wounded that they can't escape. Maybe their wing is torn a little. The officer says, I'll be back. Flies away. I think this only serves to put more fear into Saijin, right? This officer knows what he has done. This officer could tell all of Pitton's movement that Saijin is a traitor. You don't want a traitor for a Messiah, do you? Not that they would believe this Fae, of course, but doubt is contagious. Saijin runs back to their settlement, saying, everybody, pack your things. We're under attack. The Fae know we're here. We have to go. And they move to even more secretive location. I think that is our scene. So let's write that up. And I kind of forgot. Sorry, I forgot to do the most fundamental thing when you are playing Microscope, which is to ask a question in your scene. I think that the question here is, why is Pitton's successor so troubled? Or what's going on with Pitton's successor? The answer is, Pitton's successor and friend Saijin was once tapped to spy on Pitton's movement for a Fae soldier involved in the abductions. Eventually, Saijin told the soldier they wouldn't spy anymore and thought that had done the trick until days after Pitton's death, when the Fae soldier returns. Is this light or dark? I think it's dark. I think that Saijin is troubled. I think it's a tough burden, tough deck of cards that they have to play. Tough luck, Saijin. But kind of good luck. They didn't die, so that's always good. This brings us to the very end of round 2, which means it's time for a legacy round. Legacy is where we explore an event or a person from a previous round. And there are 2 set legacies in play currently. We have the Chilean trying to help the Fae Vigilantes, which is in Legacy. We also have a second legacy, which is a publication called Quickened from Human Minds. Now, because it was predominantly the Oracles round, that means it is my turn to choose a legacy. Yes, I get to choose something that was introduced in this round, and I can replace one of our legacies. Technically, in the rules, it says like I can only replace my own legacy, but it's just me, so I say that I can replace either legacy. That's fine, it doesn't really matter. What do I want to explore in the future? I mean, Pitton's movement, very interesting. Pitton himself, a very interesting character. This new successor, Saijin, very interesting as well. I also liked that we caught a glimpse of the pro-human sky cities. I do have that as a potential focus topic for the future, so I probably won't touch that. I'm very interested in the shadowy council and their machinations in the human court, but I think it would be most interesting to put the life of Pitton into Legacy. That is broad enough that I can explore that from any angle if I so choose in the future, and it also makes sense because Pitton has been deified by his movement. It would make sense to have some stories that they would tell about him, even if they end up being very exaggerated. So I am going to replace the Quickened from Human Minds legacy with the Life of Pitton legacy. So all of that is to say that I now have a choice. I can create an event or a scene in one of the 2 legacies, an event or scene about the Fae Vigilantes, or an event or scene about Pitton's life. I actually want to return to these Fae Vigilantes. I filmed these quite far in advance, so right now I've been editing the first couple of episodes of this series, and I just edited the one with the Fae Vigilantes where they were introduced, and there's a lot of questions that we have not addressed about these vigilantes, especially about the orphan boy. I mean, what happens to them, right? Do they escape imprisonment? What is their continued relationship with the sister? We also introduced in this round, or I kind of introduced, that maybe one of the people in the Shadow Council turns out is this orphan. I think that is very interesting idea that I would love to explore. So I think I would like to make a scene, and I want it to be about these Fae Vigilantes. So then our question for this scene, because we left off when they were arrested, we need to know a couple of things. We need to know who these Fae families are, how many of them are there in this group? Does this orphan have a family? Probably has a secret family or a found family that is part of this group. But I want to know if they succeed or not. What is the result, right? What do they do? Do they help them escape? What is the communication that has been broken down here? I could be presumptuous here. I could presume that Chilean is successful and make my question, how does Chilean succeed in helping these Fae families get the vigilantes out of prison? I would like to think that they succeed. I would like this to be a happy ending for this story, because I think that it would be that's nice. Sometimes it's nice to make nice things. Okay, so here's the question. How does Chilean succeed in helping the Fae families get the Fae Vigilantes released from prison? We did name the Fae Vigilantes. Crimerin was the diplomat, and Ver is the orphan boy. I want to know a couple of things before I take out my tarot cards or do bold once again. First of all, how many are in this group? I don't think it's any more than 6, or really 4. So I'm gonna roll a d4 to see how many people are in this Fae family group that Chilean is working with? 4. So there's 4 people in this group. How does Chilean succeed? I'm gonna bring out the tarot cards once again because we haven't used them in this round. It could be as simple as she goes and uses her influence as queen. We know that communication has broken down between the 2 courts. They're kind of at a stalemate. There's probably no diplomatic way that they can resolve this. Otherwise, she wouldn't be meeting in this secret tunnel with the Fae families. My guess is they're going to try and plot some kind of escape because that is just the only way that they're going to be released. Otherwise, it would just take a long time. They'd be in prison forever, and they don't deserve that. But let's see what the tarot cards have to say. The King of Arrows, which is swords in this deck, I think. Usually in tarot, the king, the queen, etc., the court cards are people. This is striking me as it might be King Hallis, you know, that he is somehow involved, maybe not officially. Maybe she does go to him. Finding a way through chaos by calm clarity, an urge to buck the system. Well, that certainly fits. You may need to exercise judgment, power, force of will. Use your strength to cut yourself free of what weighs you down. I don't think this is necessarily a person. I think this is Queen Chilean coming into her power. I think this is her using her talents to help these people, even though it carries a societal risk. You know, she is going against the will of her husband, the king, and the will of everyone around her. No doubt that she's been advised to stay away from this situation. Don't help these Fae vigilantes. No matter what they've done, they still acted according to their own will in our land. They're probably going to be publicly punished as an example. Maybe. If communication is broken down and it's that bad, things might not be looking very good for our Fae vigilantes in prison. The need to exercise judgment, power, force, will. I think this is her using her telepathic talents, her magical ability to help these families. I don't just think that her and the families, you know, plot an escape. I don't think this is what this is. I think this is her having exhausted other avenues. I think this is her going to the prison and just releasing them secretly, or she's trying to be secretive about it. But I think this is her just standing up and be like, I'm the queen. I have some say here. Like, my husband might be the king, but I'm Chilean. Like, I'm literally one of the 3 sisters, so you better listen to me. And also, I have magic. So I think the scene is she sneaks into the prison where the Fae are being kept. I believe this prison is underground because the Fae can fly. Makes sense to trap them underground. And it's dank, it's dirty, dark. She has a cloak on. She's sort of sneaking around. She doesn't want anybody to know that she, the queen, is there yet, until she's almost at the Crimerin and Ver's cell. And she's like kind of waiting behind a corner. She's sort of debating with herself. What am I doing? I know I'm doing the right thing, but it's frightening that I'm here. This is a question. Would she tell her sisters about this? Like, would she not get them to help? This card is telling me no, that the other sisters are preoccupied with other things, or maybe they are on the side of, we gotta follow the law here. Like, yes, they may have saved your life. We have to wait for their rulers to extradite them in the proper way. Like, we can't just set them free. Like, what would that say about us? So I think they've sort of bowed out of this situation. That's why they're not here. She's going rogue. She's pressed against the dark, dank wall, and she's just kind of like, well, I'm here. I have to do this. And there's a guard very close to her, just guarding the door. They're not gonna leave those Fae vigilantes alone. They're not gonna leave them to plot for escape. There's always gonna be somebody outside of the cell door. There's no way that Chilean is gonna sneak up to the door. I think Chilean rounds the corner. She walks confidently towards the guard, and the guard's just like, hey, who are you? What are you doing here? And Chilean throws back her hood, and the guard's just like, oh, I'm sorry, my lady. I didn't realize that you were coming down here. And she's like, well, I'm here, and I would like to see the prisoners. And the guard is just like, I don't think I'm supposed to do that. I think Chilean uses her powers here. Chilean sees into this guard's mind. I think she says something to him that touches his deepest fear in such a way. There's nothing that I could physically say to you in this moment because I don't know what that is, but I think whatever sentence she utters just makes the guard be like I have to get out of this situation because she knows way too much about me. I'm not paid enough for this. He goes down the hall and is just like, you know what? I wasn't here. I didn't see anything. She's at the door. I think it's a solid door with a little teeny window, and the window has little bars in it. So I think she looks in. She sees Crimerin and Ver sitting there, probably dejected, maybe sleeping. I think that she waves her hand and the door unlocks. She doesn't need those guards' keys. She's powerful. The door creaks open and Crimerin, the diplomat, stands up, and Chilean says to her, I'm here to set you free. I think that's the scene. This legacy is about the sister helping these Fae vigilantes, the Fae families of the Fae vigilantes. This scene is not really, it is about the vigilantes, but it's really about Chilean taking charge in her life. It is about our youngest queen, as vulnerable as she is, as perhaps a little naive. She is coming into her own. She has her own powers, and she's gonna do what she thinks is right with them. And I think this scene is about that. Okay, so the question was, how does Chilean succeed in helping the vigilantes escape? The answer is that she uses her innate magical talent and wielding abilities, as well as her newfound confidence as queen, and takes charge by marching into the prison and unlocking the door. That seems very simple, but I think it kind of fits the kind of theme of the story. And who knows what happens after that, right? Does she get in trouble? Does somebody else come down and try and stop them? Are there other forces at play here? There are a lot of other questions that we can kind of tease out. But in terms of a cinematic scene, that is what we see here. That is answer to the question. So is this light or dark? I think it's light. I think this lady's taking charge. She's doing it for herself. If you are enjoying this show, you can check out my Patreon. The link is in the description. That's it. That's the end of round 2. I hope that you had a good time watching this. I will probably film another round at some point. I don't know when. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part was, what your favorite tool that I'm using is. What would you have put as legacy? Which story would you like to see more of? This whole world is a collection of stories, and the advantage of using a tool like microscope is we can zoom in and out on different eras, different people, different events in time, and see what happens. We don't always see the whole story, and we don't always see it in order, but just like in life, we only see one particular perspective at a time. I really hope that you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. And why don't you go ahead and watch this video next.